Hi everyone, Wayne Hall back again in the new year to talk about indie comics you can pick up at your local shop. And this week I've got a really good one, and it's going to be the first of many, I have a feeling, that I actually don't have a physical copy to show you guys. I only have a digital version of things, and so I'm going to show you individual pages and covers. But I didn't manage to get this at the store, but I wanted to really talk about it, so here goes. It's called Dead Seas, and it is by Cavan and Nick Brokenshire. It recently debuted as a book released by IDW, and let me read the description to you. In Dead Seas, ghosts are real and very dangerous, but they're also valuable. They're ectoplasm capable of curing countless diseases. There's only one problem. Harvesting the wonder drug can be just as deadly. Prisoner Gus Ortiz is willing to take the risk in return for a reduced sentence, anything to see his daughter again. All it will take is a few months at sea scraping ectoplasm off the walls of the Perdition, a floating prison containing the most vicious ghosts on Earth. Surrounded by dark waters, Gus soon realizes that angry spirits are the least of his worries, which of course humans are always the biggest problem in any of these kinds of stories. This is very much of a fantasy story, and Cavan Scott, who I've interviewed on my other podcast, says that I grew up obsessed with disaster movies, but there was only one problem. There were never enough ghosts, he says. Dead Seas is my chance to put this terrible wrong right, and who better to team up with than Nick Brokenshire, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Working together on Star Wars Adventures Return to Vader's Castle, it became clear that we share the same ghoulish sense of humor, and I immediately knew who I wanted to bring Dead Sea's tortured spirits to life. Or should that be death? Said Scott. It's a fascinating book. I'm really interested in a couple of things. I have personally never seen a ghost. I know some people who say they have, and that's fine. I just happen to think that it's an interesting phenomenon, but I probably, my hair would turn even whiter if I had seen one. But what's really interesting, there's a couple of things that Cavan's doing with this book. By the way, his name is spelled C-A-V-A-N. It's not Kevin like K-E-V-I-N. It's Cavan. And he chooses a person of color, a Hispanic gentleman, to be the main character, and he's trying to get back to see his daughter, but of course he's crossed the line and gotten imprisoned. So now they're taking him to the ship, the Perdition, where he's going to try to help them gather up ectoplasm. So it's going to be something to see. And of course, he's not the only one. There's a whole bunch of other, a whole big cast of characters working with him, and they're very interesting. Not everybody, of course, is a good bad guy. There are some people who are considered bad guys, and it's a big ship, a big, huge tanker kind of ship. And as soon as they get there, they know they're in trouble when they see this guy mopping the deck, and he's not necessarily talking like the most sane person around. So this is a mini-series. There are several issues in the mini-series. Let me see if I can find out real quickly how many. It doesn't say, but anyway, the important thing is that he gets to try to reduce his sentence so he can get home sooner. Of course, we'll see if he survives in order for that to happen. Usually in these kinds of stories, the main character survives, but not the supporting cast. So we'll see about that. Of course, the artwork is interesting too, in the sense that it's more realistic. When he's dealing with human situations, it feels very normal. It's typical comic book artwork for this kind of thing. But then when it gets to the supernatural, it gets a little spooky. We see ghosts and stuff like that mixed in with the regular real life stuff. So it makes it really interesting to see. I'm going to be curious to see. I've only read the first issue so far, and I want to be able to get the rest. So we'll see what happens. I because I write reviews, I often get a compressed file full of a whole bunch of books, and that's where I came across this one. So I might wait for the trade for this one, but it's really interesting. It is a disaster movie before our eyes in a comic, and of course he takes full advantage of the comic format. So lots of interesting things going on, lots of interesting people to meet. And of course they're out on a ship, which means they're not near land or where any other people could come in. Of course, another helicopter could bring other prisoners there and stuff, but we don't know that quite yet. We don't know if that's going to happen. So that's kind of what's going on, and I thought what I would do is bring it to your attention because I really, really like it. I think it's a very good kind of a story. I always would like to see the comic genre expand into other areas. There's westerns, there's romance. This is a disaster, a horror. I would consider it to be a horror book, and it's interesting. I've got to say, who's going to survive and who's not. And except for the main character, I think everybody else is up for grabs, which is a good way for this to be. So it's just come out, so if you get to your comic shop, you should be able to get them to order it for you. IDW is usually pretty good about that. If you can't find it in the comic shop, you can always get it on the Comixology. I still don't like their website, but it's out there and you can do that. So why don't we go ahead and get to the grading, shall we? First level is always writing. And I like Mr. Scott's writing. It's very true to the disaster genre. We get to know people just enough so that we'll be bothered if something happens to them. We see ghosts. We see all kinds of crazy things. And I'm not convinced how this is actually going to play out. You know, some horror movies, the moment I see the first image, I say, oh, I know what's going to happen. Because it's pretty much a 50-50 shot on most people. But this stuff he's written it very well, so I'm not exactly sure who's going to make it and who's not, which of course makes me want to read it. I want to know what's going to happen. So the writing is very strong. The characters are very good. They're different from each other, which is I really like. So that's very good. And I just happen to really like all that he's doing with this book. So I would give the writing an A. Very, very good. Now, the artwork, as I said, there is a realistic stuff going on a lot of the time. Every once in a while, a ghost appears or ectoplasm is there, and it's bright and shiny ectoplasm, bright green, which of course all ectoplasm is, I suppose. And they're going around scooping it up and trying to save it. And of course, every once in a while, a ghost appears, and the ghost is kind of like zombies are. I say zombies are in Walking Dead. When things get too complacent, they show up to deliver a punch. And that's what's going on with them. They're very interesting ghosts, too. Not exactly clear on who they are, the ghosts of, but I imagine that's something we'll find out as we go along. So the artwork is good. I really like it. I don't know if it's as strong as the writing. I would give the artwork a good B because it's very nicely done. It could be a little stronger, but I think it's pretty good for the format stuff. You want to make this as good as you can. Then we get to lettering. Lettering is pretty good in this one. Maybe I'm getting softer as I review these things. I think the lettering is pretty strong. I'm going to give it a B also. I think it works well. It doesn't cover up any of the art that I remember. Usually as soon as I see an art covered up, I go, rats. But this one I would say is a B. Literary merit. How will people read this book 10, 20 years from now? This is one of those books that really could come back and as a movie or something in a while. And it really could be something that I think people can enjoy because we're away from current civilization, so we're in a what they call a bottle show. Everything occurs within our one little area. And so I would say that the literary merit is an A. I think it's going to be really good. Fun factor. You know, I don't really pick up books where the fun factor is really strong. So I would give it a C in the fun factor. There's some sly digs here and there, but it's not it's not a funny book if you want to do that. So I would not do that. I would not expect going in that's going to happen. Overall grade, I'd still give this an A. I almost gave it a B plus, but I think A because it's hard to judge with the first issue. But I think that this is one of those books that's going to unfold nicely. Mr. Scott knows how to tell those kinds of stories well. So I'm really looking forward to how this is all going to work out. And it's monthly, I believe, and then I completely expect the trade to come. So check with your local shop, check with Comixology and other digital formats. And it's called Dead Seas. And you want to make sure that you get this on your pull list if you like this kind of thing. And I really think a lot of you do. So that's it for this time. Be sure to keep reading your comics.